Hello, sports fans, and welcome back to Sports on the Spot. My name is Willie Charger, and today I'll be joined by Nick James. Later on, Lenny and Ronnie are going to be with us for their lowdown and rundown. A lot of things going on in the sports world over the past weekend. Some sports I was paying attention to, a lot of stuff I just ignored. Nick, what was it that you were paying attention to this weekend in the sports world?
Willie, as I'm gearing up for fantasy, I saw J.K. Dobbins with the ACL tear. Having done that 3 times myself, I know how hard that's going to be, and he's out for the season now. So people are asking for fantasy. Do you go with Gus Edwards, who's been pretty tried and true the last few seasons as the backup, or do we go with Justice Hill? I honestly think Lamar Jackson's value just went way up because they're already the league leaders in rushing, and mostly because he's part of that. So I see a lot more options with him, Willie. What did you notice this weekend?
Well, I know it's the NBA offseason, but I can never talk enough about my Lakers. And just over the weekend, just this morning, they finalized a deal to re-sign Rajon Rondo to a 1-year veteran minimum contract. So after being with the Lakers about 10 months ago, he went to the Clippers, he went to the Hawks, temporarily with the Grizzlies, got bought out, and now he's back with the Lakers to help them with the playmaking, take some load off LeBron. So that was my big takeaway for the weekend, Lakers getting Rajon Rondo. I know that probably Lenny has a lot of big takeaways that he could talk about, so let's take it away, Lenny.
One fascinating aspect of sports is the emotional investment we as fans are willing to make in our favorite teams. But what is it that connects a fan to a specific team? Well, the most common and obvious reason is geography. Let's use baseball as an example. If you grew up in Boston, chances are you're a lifelong White Sox fan, right? The thing about Boston is that everyone who lives there was born there. There's no question about where home is. So at a game in Boston, 100% of the fans at the park, they're going to be Sox fans. Well, it's not so simple in a place like San Diego. There's no such thing as a native San Diegan. We're all from somewhere else. So when the Sox play here against our Padres, well, the ballpark is full of Sox fans. Why? Well, those people all live in San Diego, but they're from Boston, and they brought their team loyalties with them. They hated their hometown. They deserted it for SoCal, but they didn't abandon their team. No offense, Ronnie, but East Coasters, well, they're odd. Now, I've lived in Santa Barbara. That's Dodgers country. I've lived in the Bay Area, land of the Giants, and I live in San Diego, home of the Padres. So what team am I supposed to root for? I don't even know where home is. Well, for me, the answer is the team, well, with the best name. And it ain't the Giants, too generic. It's not the Dodgers either. That doesn't even make sense. And as for the Padres, well, I'm not Catholic. Frankly, no major league team names have caught my fancy, so I've had to go to the minor leagues. And what a gold mine. How about this? The Rocket City Trash Pandas, or the Binghamton Rumble Ponies, or the Lansing Lugnuts. But you know, the team that has earned my undying loyalty is the Amarillo Sod Poodles. I'm going to put them ahead of my family for the rest of my life. Now, what's so special about them? Well, it turns out they're a AA affiliate of the Padres. So in a sense, I'm still rooting for the home team. Look, I'll never set foot in Amarillo. In fact, if I ever tell you I'm going there, well, just shoot me. But hey, we're talking sports loyalties, and being irrational, well, that's just part of the deal. So don't be surprised if you hear me talking trash about the Trash Pandas.
Well, thanks for that, Lenny. The Amarillo Sod Poodles, I kind of like that. Kind of reminds me of the El Paso Chihuahuas. In case you don't know, they happen to be the AAA affiliate of the San Diego Padres. Don't mess with those Chihuahuas. They're pretty mean dogs. Nick, I wanted to spend some time talking about the NFL. The preseason games have finally come to an end, and now some of the teams have finalized their starting quarterback situations. In Jacksonville, it looks like head coach Urban Meyer has decided on the rookie Trevor Lawrence to be the starter for the Jags this upcoming season. Ready or not, Trevor Lawrence is the man. What do you think about that decision on the part of Coach Urban Meyer, Nick?
Well, they pretty much solidified it because they traded away Gardner Minshew, who sadly said he didn't want to be the number 2 on any team, and now he's the number 3. So going over to the Eagles, Trevor Lawrence looked good in the most recent preseason game. I think that he's going to be pretty ready to go. It's just a matter if they can air it out and get that running game going. With ETN out, they got to rely on their back from last year, and it's just going to, it'll take a village, but if they can get that going, I could see him just taking off in a pretty weak division.
You're right. Against the Cowboys, Trevor did have flashes of brilliance when he was in there, so there is some optimism going forward there. With the New Orleans Saints, it looks like Sean Payton has decided on Jameis Winston to be the starting quarterback. For me, it's no surprise. The guy's already showed that he can succeed in the NFL. As we mentioned before, turnover has always been his negative. What about the Saints starting quarterback, Nick? Good choice on the part of Coach Payton?
I think it's the right choice. I think Sean Payton wanted to prove everybody wrong and have Taysom Hill be the guy and show he could work. But Jameis, former first overall pick, got his LASIK surgery over the offseason. And I mean, if you didn't notice last year, he's always squinting every time they zoomed in on him. Like maybe that's why he threw the 30 picks. But I think he's got a fresh start in New Orleans, and he's just going to be able to kind of take over that air raid offense. And I'm excited to kind of see how that looks without Drew Brees. It's been so long.
Well, now some of the other teams haven't quite made their final decision as far as their starting quarterbacks. With the Patriots, Coach Belichick, as usual, keeping everybody guessing. He hasn't really said who is going to start for the Patriots, if it's going to be Cam Newton or the rookie Mac Jones. A lot of experts think that Mac Jones outplayed Cam Newton in the preseason, but for whatever reason, Belichick hasn't said one way or the other. What's going on in New England, Nick?
Bill Belichick's going to keep it tight. Cam's the guy. He's already looking better than he did last year. Maybe Mac Jones looked a little better in the preseason, but I think he probably had more opportunities against worse talent, playing kind of in the backup roles against the second and third stringers. Cam's got to be the guy. I think there's going to be a lot of kind of play action to the tight ends. They got Hunter Henry when he's healthy and Jonnu Smith. So Mac Jones is going to be ready to go when Cam's not doing good, but to at least start the season, I'm going with Cam.
Well, finally, over here on the West Coast, you have the 49ers still trying to decide between Jimmy Garoppolo and Trey Lance. The latest speculation is that Coach Shanahan might go to a platoon quarterback system, alternating the two quarterbacks, kind of like what Brees and Taysom Hill did on the Saints with some effectiveness a few years ago. What do you think about that idea, Nick? Is it going to fly?
It's not going to be – he's not going to use Trey Lance like Taysom Hill with one or two gadget plays. It's got to be all or nothing. You got to let this guy sit and get good on the bench and in this season kind of watching, or he's got to go in and learn. You don't want to be pulling people in and out. You saw it last year with Tua and Fitzpatrick, and it's not good for the confidence. It splits the locker room. I think Shanahan just can't decide on his quarterback. I mean, I still believe he was going to pick Mac Jones with that third overall pick, and then somehow became infatuated with Trey Lance. And now, before that it was Garoppolo. So it's just kind of interesting to see. I think Garoppolo starts the season, and the Niner fans are going to be calling for Lance as soon as Garoppolo blows it.
Lots of uncertainty in San Francisco. Can't say the same in San Diego. We all know who the Chargers starting quarterback is going to be, Justin Herbert. Well, enough on the NFL. We'll have to talk some more when the season actually starts in a couple of weeks. So we'll come back to this later on. All right, we're back, and I wanted to spend some time talking about NCAA college football. This Labor Day weekend has the official kickoff of the season, although there were a few games this past weekend. Some marquee games that are matched up this weekend. Number 1, Alabama going down to play Miami. You have number 5, Georgia, up against number 3, Clemson. Nick, looking at those two games, which one of the games you think is most interesting to watch?
Georgia Clemson's definitely going to be kind of that grinded out defense and running the ball. I'm always excited for the SEC games or against Clemson because Clemson for some reason can hang with them. Miami against Alabama, it's like give me a break. People are living 40 years ago where Miami was good back in the day, and it's still like heralded. They're talked about like the Cowboys from stuff they did years ago, and they're not even relevant now. So I mean, if Miami can even cover the spread, I would be impressed. I think they're just going to get blown out, and they have no place playing them week one.
Good point about the Alabama-Miami game. I don't know how much of a resistance the Hurricane are going to put up. In Georgia, you have a proven quarterback in JT Daniels, and I mentioned that because some of these other teams that we're talking about, Clemson and Alabama, they're having to fill quarterback voids with Lawrence and Mac Jones having departed. So they have to find somebody to fill the gap. Lenny, you had that look on your face like you want to add something to the conversation.
Well, I love college football. It's right in my wheelhouse. Unfortunately, I was starting to get caught up on it last weekend, and I got interested in this Korean drama of all things, and I actually found it more interesting than football, so I started watching that. It's called Crash Landing on You. Have you guys seen that?
Missed that one, Lenny. I was watching the UCLA game.
Really? Yeah, it's good. It's very good.
Have to check that out. Nick, we got Notre Dame going up against Florida State, fighting Irish, ranked number 9. You think they're going to contend to the national championship this year?
Somehow they always make it in the playoff, and they always remind us why they shouldn't have been in the playoff. They get smoked every single time. So, no, they shouldn't even be considered. They get to pick their own schedule. They got to play good people. Obviously, they can have a good record if they're picking who they want to play. So maybe they'll get a couple big wins, but they're not going to beat the 3 other teams in the playoffs if they even get close to there.
Lenny, what do you think about Nick's assessment about the Fighting Irish?
Well, the Fighting Irish, everybody always talks about them because they're big name and everything, but there's some smaller schools out there that I think are dark horses. I mean, talk about Bakersfield Renegades out of Bakersfield College. They were last in the conference last season. I think they could easily, with some luck, finish 4th or 5th this season.
Good point about the Fighting Irish. Everybody knows who they are, but when it comes down to crunch time, they just don't seem to show up. So, as usual, a very good point there, Lenny. Well, we could talk a lot more about college football, but I know I want to have some time for Ronnie to do his rundown. So, take it away, Ronnie.
All right, guys, how we doing? Can you believe it? Summer's almost over. It's almost football season. A couple weeks ago, we were talking about, odds and picks to win the division. And I figured today we'll do a few different over-under win totals. And then probably next week, maybe we'll do odds to win the Super Bowl. But I wanted to talk about a couple win totals. I figured I'd give you 2 each, 2 overs, 2 unders that just stood out to me. I'm not even sure if I'm taking them yet, but just looking through. I think you've heard me say the Rams. I like the Rams over 10.5. I think that with Stafford, it's a totally different team. McVay's finally got a quarterback. I'm very bullish, if you will, on the Rams. And I think they're going to have a huge year because they got a lot of talent. You know, the rest of the team is just they've always had a loser at quarterback. So I'll do Rams over. And then another first under I'll give you is the Saints. I like the Saints under 9. I just don't got a good feeling. And also my buddy Barry Bellacini, he goes down to training camp every year. And he said it's just, bad vibes all around. They're eating po' boys during the middle of practice. And it's just, with the Michael Thomas thing and the quarterback, it just seems like an odd situation. And, I don't really trust them to go more than 9 wins. Conversely, I'm going to go Falcons over 7.5. I don't know why. I got a good feeling about the Falcons. They stink, but they've always had a high-powered offense, and I think they could win 8 games. I don't see why they couldn't win 8 games. I don't really know much about their defense, but so I'll go Falcons as my other over, and then lastly, I'm going to do Cowboys under 9.5. I think 9.5 is way too much. First of all, that division, I think the teams are so evenly matched, they're going to be beating up on each other. The division winner may win 9 games. So even if they won the division with 9 games, they're still going under. But I don't think they're that good. Jerry Jones, he's a bad guy. Hard Knocks is making him out to be a good guy. He's a bad guy. Dak goes down with an injury, they're done. So I don't really trust the Cowboys at 9.5. But anyways, good luck, and we'll talk to you next week.
Well, thanks, Ronnie. Now, again, our favorite part of the program is reaching into the viewer mailbag. And we've got a good one this week from a Jeepers Peepers 9135. And Jeepers Peepers 9135 asks, is it fair that the Dodgers, who have the second best record in the majors, will be seeded number 4 in the playoffs? What do you guys think?
Well, that's a really good question, and rightfully so. The Dodgers are on track to win 108 games this season, but yet the Giants, because they're so phenomenal, the Dodgers are going to end up the wild card team. And under the present format, the wild card team has to play a one-game elimination. They might end up playing against some team with some 90 wins and go out. You got the Atlanta Braves over there in the National League East. They're going to win the division with maybe 88, 90 wins. They get a first-round bye, and they advance into the division series. I don't think that's fair, and I'm not necessarily a Dodger fan. Nick?
Willie, I want to double down on that. I think same thing how baseball does that with the NFL. I think we need to go to that basketball format where the best teams play each other. And as long as the conferences are split up, if you have the second best record, then you're the number 2 seed. I don't like how football does that too. You got the division winners, but somehow the other 2 wild card teams in the past, before there's the 7 seeds, but it would always be 2 other teams in a division. And it just felt like, if they were up there with the same amount of wins, they should have had a higher seed and not just be the NFC East is always that 4th seed in the NFC and with an 8-8 kind of record. So I think they should change that.
Well, I think you need to look at it even a little more analytically, actually. I mean, I think what we need to do is here, we need to consider all the variables, both micro and macro level. And we need to make sure that not only the information itself, but the implications of that. And then we can begin to understand or not understand the outcome, either expected or unexpected. That's how I look at it.
That's some serious critical thinking there, Lenny. Thanks a lot for that. Unfortunately, it looks like we've run out of time for this week's show, and I'm going to have to say goodbye. But before we go, I wanted to thank everybody for watching the show. Reminding people out there to like, comment, subscribe to our show if they have a chance. Any sports on the spot questions you have may be submitted to the sports on the spot show at gmail.com, or else you can submit the question on our YouTube channel. That's going to be it for today's show. Thanks for watching. We'll see you all next time.
Unbelievable.